Good evening and welcome back to another edition of the SteelerFury.com podcast. Thanksgiving week special. I am your host, Jeremy Coleman. You know me as Smith is Smoking on the message boards, joined by my colleagues, Will Massaczek. You know him as Bradshaw to Ben, and Corey Karbowski. You know him as Corey39 on the message boards. Gentlemen, I'm going to be the big man and say that I was wrong in my prediction last week, and you guys are pretty much dead on. Our front seven couldn't get to Burrow as I had hoped, so I'll let you guys start off here. Will, what are your kind of thoughts on this game this past week?
Oh, I mean, don't let the garbage time score fool you. That was a team that ran away from the Steelers in the second half. I do give the Steelers credit for, once again, just like they did the previous week, taking advantage of the other team's penalties to keep drives alive or to kill drives. And they took advantage of that, which is what you're supposed to do whenever you are getting calls like that. And once again, even getting some other more calls that were highly questionable. But that's the way it goes sometimes. I thought that I don't mean to make it sound like such faint praise, but that second quarter was the best quarter that Kenny Pickett has played so far in the NFL. Did a lot of great stuff. Still wasn't perfect. I think he still missed a couple of kind of like probably relatively easy touchdowns. But if the rest of the time he was producing at an extremely high level, you'd be like, oh yeah, well, he missed a couple throws. He's a rookie. But yeah, we're seeing this convergence of things happen. One is losing the idea of you never had a losing season, and losing the idea that the defense is elite, and seeing that, thinking that they have to protect the quarterback to try to keep those two things afloat. And it seems like, in a way, that this game was the beginning. I mean, I'll say one last thing and I'll let Corey have it. Before the game, honestly, I thought to myself, if they come out and they play well and they win this game, then you'd have to start thinking that they really are legitimately going to contend till the end for a playoff spot, because they don't have too many. I mean, it's if they win a game against Cincinnati, they got a fairly easy schedule against some teams that are closer to them in talent. But now that they lost this game, it seems like a real turning point. Like, there's got nothing to lose now by opening things up with Kenny, and really letting him swim or die.
Gotcha, Corey. Why don't you expand on kind of your thoughts from this past game and just kind of what you thought about it?
I mean, I was shell-shocked to see that we scored 20 in the first half. I mean, it was a good quarter of football. I mean, we took advantage of their mistakes in that second quarter. And I mean, what was 17 points in the second quarter? I mean, that's an outstanding number. But even with this 30-point score, we're still 70 points, I think, 70 points behind the next high score in our division. And it just feels like that was an outlier. I mean, the offense is still, it's poorly coached. Kenny Pickett's a good quarter, but just missing too many throws. And we had the drop in the fourth, or we would have tacked on another touchdown. I mean, it's not all on him, but you're just starting to feel to the point where you look at Kenny Pickett and, like, can you ever see him, even with a good defensive performance, can you ever see him winning a game off of Patrick Mahomes or even Joe Burrow? Like, because I mean, Kenny Pickett didn't win that game in week 1 against Joe Burrow. Like, we're getting a good enough sample size, and he'll grow. He's already old, but he'll still grow. It's hard for me to see him ever beating an elite quarterback in a tight game when it's going to come down to a last drive. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would tend to agree. And Will, you kind of mentioned what I was going to say is, well, our defense was decent, but it wasn't elite like, we needed to be in order to win games. Yeah, TJ Watt, had again one of the most improbable interceptions that you will ever see a front seven player make. I mean, just incredible defensive play. But really, I mean, Arthur Mollett, one of his worst games of the year, if you ask me. And then we let T. Higgins go off like he was, just some superstar player. And then I'm not saying he's not a good player, but I mean, this passing offense under Joe Burrow, when Jamar Chase has suffered recently, sure didn't look like that against us. So definitely our passing defense definitely reared its ugly head again. just showing the up and down play of our secondary. Even with a healthy Minka Fitzpatrick, just didn't look like players were on the same page. We had so many routes just over the middle where it's like our guy just couldn't keep up with the guy running across the field, or whether it was a drag, a slant. We just got caught in coverages that we couldn't hope to defend. The deep end kept killing our defense. They kept finding that window in the middle of the field. So that's one of the big things I take away from this game. Well, one thing I will say, and I got to give credit where credit's due, this is the second game in a row where Najee Harris has actually played up to his draft status. He's played 2 very good games in a row. So that's a positive. I know Jaylen Warren had to leave the game at some point. So it'll be interesting I think it was an ankle. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
But,
I believe so.
Yeah, he had to hop off the field and we didn't see him again. So hopefully that's not going to hamper him long term, because let's face it, we were already paper thin at running back before Jaylen Warren started emerging as a viable second option. I would hate to have to go back to Benny Snell or
Benny Snell football, baby.
yeah, or elevate.
Benny Snell football played. He got some snaps. That's the first time in a long time.
Yeah. So
God Corey, forbid. Jeremy, you said the defense played pretty well. To me, the defense was terrible, hideous in this game. Yes, Joe Burrow's a really good quarterback, but the Cincinnati Bengals offensive line, not particularly known for their pass protection skill.
Yeah.
And especially the tackles. And they were missing Jamar Chase. Mixon got knocked out relatively early in the game. And they're missing, I think, some other receiver as well. Like I was telling you guys, I've met Trenton Irwin, and I think he's obviously very, like, it just shows to show you how talented some of the fringe guys in the NFL can be, because they get an opportunity, they can be successful. But with that lineup, the Steelers' vaunted defense not only gave up 37, Cincinnati could have scored as many points as they needed to win that game. Like they basically held back on the last few drives. They were like running the ball up the middle and kneeling. So to me, that's like giving up 40 points basically, in your offense scoring. Maybe if they catch the third blown coverage of the day for a touchdown, Pickens catches that, then you can justify the score they came up with. But basically, that's a 2-touchdown win, and that means your defense didn't play that well, because the offense put up some points. And once again, as is the history with this team, whenever the offense does actually manage to get out of its own way and score some points for whatever reason, the defense traditionally has really let them down. I think of those Raiders games. I think of like the last 4 or 5 playoff games. It just feels like they're, whatever the formula is, either the defense absolutely needs the offense to protect them every step of the way, or, they don't have a chance to keep a good quarterback under 40 points. It's depressing.
Yeah, I guess you're right, Will. Decent is being generous at best. How many touchdown catches did Samaje Perine have? How many tackles did we not bring him down on? Yeah, pretty bad, I guess, when you really think about the nitty gritty of the game. Just too many points given up, not getting after Burrow like we used to or whatever. So, Corey, do you have anything else on this game?
Our defense was like a bend but don't break defense, which is traditionally what we run, except every time they got in the red zone, we broke. Like,
it broke.
We just got slaughtered by Samaje Perine in the red zone on anything he wanted.
Corey, I think it was the bend but break defense.
Yes. But we're going to need 3 top 40 picks is really what I come away with looking at this game, because the Bengals aren't that good. They were better last year, but this is a Jamar Chaseless Bengals, no Joe Mixon, and we still got 37 put up on us. The offense wasn't sustainable. We're going to need those picks.
At home, by the way.
At home.
Yeah, I will say, I thought Pittsburgh had a real chance to win the game up until the drive where I think we lost 35 yards or something like that in penalties and shit. Good Lord.
Yeah.
It was, a false start, a hold, I can't remember all it was, but all I knew is we moved back and barely moved forward. So up until that point, I thought Pittsburgh had a chance, but after that drive, I was like, we won't have enough time with the way this offense operates. So with that being said, we can kind of move on out of this game, or else we might be here all day discussing how bad and how we fell short or whatever. So we do have a game in my neck of the woods this weekend. Pittsburgh travels to take on the Indianapolis Colts, the Fighting Jeff Saturdays. They are 1-1 under Jeff Saturday. Which
a chance to be 2-0, man. They
was very
played a
safe.
good game.
They had a very close game against Philadelphia. If it wasn't for some last second, kind of a last minute drive by Philadelphia,
Who could have seen that coming? Who could have seen such a result? Best team in the league, and Indianapolis almost winning the game.
Yeah, I don't think there's anyone on this show that would have thought that.
I was expecting a win from the battling Jeff Saturdays. So
you almost got it.
Yeah, so close.
Almost got it, but this game has me perplexed a little bit just because it could go back and forth. But I like Pittsburgh early in it. Let's go ahead and talk some matchups. I will kick this one off because I think it's the most blatant, most obvious one. If the Colts have to start Bernard Raymond, Alex Highsmith might set a single game record for sacks in a game. That if the Colts are truly forced to play Raymond, that's going to just be the worst thing ever for them. When he plays, they cannot pass protect at all, especially if they put Matt Ryan behind center again, which would shock me if they didn't, because that was a move that Jeff Saturday made to put Matt Ryan back in the lineup. I think Alex Highsmith could have an absolute field day and really make life hard for Matt Ryan and the Colts offense. Corey, let's go to you next. What's another matchup you think we should watch?
I'm not sure if we can stop Jonathan Taylor. I know he's having a much worse year than he did last year, but that's still the same player. He's held back by the hodgepodge O-line that they put in front of him. And I mean, let's face it, our defense is sometimes good and our defense is sometimes bad. If we have a game where we come out, we're getting moved around in the front seven, this could be a 170, 180 yard rushing game for Jonathan Taylor. So everyone on that front seven is going to have to step up. We're going to have to eat two gaps in the middle. We're going to have to prevent them from getting on the linebackers. And even if we do that, our linebackers got to tackle. I mean, we saw what happened last game with a backup running back with Samaje Perine. We're going to need to get pressure, move the line of scrimmage, and stop Jonathan Taylor before he gets too much steam, because that guy's still talented.
Absolutely will. Well, what's a matchup you think we should look out for?
I mean, you guys haven't mentioned, the Steelers. I mean, the Indianapolis defense, has some pretty good players at that second level. And I'm just not sure how well that translates to the Steelers' desire to run the ball and work to the edges. That sort of plays into Indianapolis's hands a little bit. I think the way that maybe you win against that is Freiermuth in the middle of the field. Right now, he's their really only reliable middle of the field weapon at the moment. So I feel like they've got to figure out some way to work that magic. And let us hope we never see Gunnar Olszewski on offense again. It's a very bad sign. But you touched on the thing that I was going to say, which was, there's one quarterback in the NFL right now who the Steelers defensive front should be able to get to. It's Matt Ryan. He's a statue. Not only is he, he's a less than mobile quarterback. Let's put it that way. Not only that, he's been kind of gun shy and a little shell shocked this year. So the combination, that's very bad for him. He's taken some sacks where he had a chance to get rid of the ball or had a chance to move a couple of steps to get away from it and just basically folded. So I think that's been really what's happened to the Colts season, is that Matt Ryan's done. So yes, he can make plays, and yes, he's not, that he's still pretty smart and kind of knows how to make it work. But if they can't get the ball out of his hands quickly and have a lot of success running the football, it's going to be very difficult for them. I think, what this really points to in this matchup is a pretty low scoring game. I just, going on the road against a team like Indianapolis, who's playing with some life right now, they're not totally out of it in their division. And what they showed the last 2 weeks makes you feel like there's some hope for them.
Yeah, I would agree. The other part of that is, we mentioned being able to get after Matt Ryan a few times. I mean, Indianapolis receiving core is, they're average at best this year. Pittman has been consistent up and down. I know this personally as I am a fantasy owner of Michael Pittman. So, there's weeks where
That's
he
like
looks
slavery,
great.
man.
Say that again, Will?
That's like slavery. Careful.
Yeah, I know, right? But Pittman has been very up and down all year. There's games where he's had big games and then games where it's like he looks lost. He drops easy catches and stuff. You've got the talented rookie across from him and Alec Pierce or whatever, and he's more of a tough catch guy at this point in the year. He's not a guy that wins through separation a whole lot. He's very good on the contested catch ball. I'll give him that. But then, you're down to Campbell. I can't even remember his first name. That's how.
Harris.
Yeah, Paris. Thank you. I was about to say, I know it's a country. I can't think of it. And it's not even a country when you think about it. But I mean, Paris Campbell,
Wow.
he's been decent or whatever. And I think he's the one guy, guys like Arthur Millette and maybe KZ have to watch out for just because he does have some speed. But just this unit across the board has been so inconsistent that they're not getting production from their tight end very much this year, whether it's Mo Alley Cox or talented rookie and Jelani Woods, who a lot of us liked here. So I just think outside of their running game, obviously if they can get their running game going, they're going to be very good. But, Pittsburgh's front seven has been pretty good against the run the past few games, despite secondary woes and bad tackling. We've done a pretty good job of plugging up the run holes. So I think, if our secondary can make Matt Ryan make tough throws too, I think we can get a little opportunistic there, whether it's Fitzpatrick. Levi Wallace has been playing very well as of late. Witherspoon's still dealing with his hamstring injury, so I just don't think he's going to be ready for foreseeable future, really. So I think that's a matchup we can win, just because I don't think their wide receivers blow anyone off the screen right now. So any other matchups we should be looking at this week, guys, for heading into our Monday night football game, which can't get flexed out of this spot? So,
I got one more. I think that because you bring up the point about what the receivers are like for the wide receivers are like for Indianapolis. The thing about getting the running game going is I think it opens up some opportunities for them that are not good matchups for the Steelers. Like I don't want to see any Steelers inside linebacker playing Jelani Woods in the red zone in coverage. I think that's a huge problem. And actually kind of like Deion Jackson. I know he's banged up a little bit, but a guy like that with his speed on the edge, if you get him the ball in space, even on a dump down, I think can be a problem for not for every team, but the way the Steelers are outfitted on the outside could be some trouble for them.
Yeah, you bring up a good point, and I'm just going to flip to the other side of the ball real quick here. Steelers are going to have a tough time running in the middle. Grover Stewart, DeForest Buckner, they have been playing great football this year. Yannick Ngakoue, Dan Moore's going to have to keep his head on a swivel. That guy can get hot at any time. I don't think Kwity Paye is still available. I think he's still on IR. I think he's going to miss this Monday night game unless I'm misremembering that. So Steelers offensive line has their work cut out for him too. Will, like you said, this unit has some good players really at all levels. Stephon Gilmore has been very good for them this year. Bobby Okereke, talk about a guy
there you go.
who I was not sold on out of Stanford. And damn, I mean, he's a top 10 linebacker in the NFL right now. He's stepped in for Shane Leonard and look absolutely fantastic. Not to mention they're getting good play out of Zaire Franklin and EJ Speed too. So just another thing, Pittsburgh's gonna have to watch out for, which is gonna make this game more interesting than we'd like it. With that being said, it is Thanksgiving. So this week, gentlemen, I figured of all things, we should pick the Thanksgiving games this week. Let's pick around the league or whatever. We're just gonna pick our Thanksgiving games and get to it. The first one, our 11:30 a.m. kickoff or 12:30 kickoff Eastern time. The Buffalo Bills are staying in Detroit to actually play Detroit this week. The
Very
line
strange.
right now is 9.5 on the Bills. Corey, we'll let you get this one started off.
9.5 feels. Josh Allen's going to bounce back, but he hasn't looked the same really since that elbow injury, and that's a serious injury. And as good as the Bills are, I think they're a much better roster than the Lions. I think that the Lions are, I mean, it's going to be a Thanksgiving game. They're going to be playing really hard. They've got, I think they just scheme well to keep the game close. I think they have a good running game. They get the ball out. They don't really turn the ball over that much. And even with their severe limitations on defense, I think that they can get this game within 9.5. I think the Bills win, but I think the Lions cover.
All right, Will.
I think the Lions have enough ability to run the ball, and as you said, it's Thanksgiving. I like them to cover. That seems like a big spread to me, but I feel like Buffalo, as the game winds on, is going to be just like, oh my God, I'm so tired of Detroit. Let's win this and get the hell out of here and get home. So I feel like that's. I don't know if they stayed the whole week or they went back to Buffalo, but I just feel like I'm sure they've had enough of Detroit. And yeah, they Josh Allen thing with the elbow is definitely something to watch out for. It's not that different than, what Ben was dealing with for a couple of years there, before he ended up having, full blown elbow detachment. So yeah, got to be careful. I think you got to manage that in some way that is not going to cost your star quarterback a whole season, especially if he gets injured later in the season. Boy, then it's like on to next year as well, which would be terrible for them.
Yeah. So are you taking Detroit to cover but not win?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah,
Guys,
guys.
and Corey, whatever he says, I'm going to say the same thing.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I think I'm on board with you guys because even though Buffalo was up big at one point last week, Cleveland of all teams found a way to claw back and only lose by 8. That final score was 31-23. And the Lions, believe it or not, they are on a 3-game win streak. When the hell is the last time that happened for that franchise? So they're playing good football right now. They're running the football really well. Jamal Williams was on my bench last week in fantasy. Yay! That's the case. When you have 5 good running backs, you have to sit 2, and just happened to sit the wrong one. And I started Dalvin Cook. Yikes! But no, I like.
At least you didn't start Bradley Chubb, or not Bradley Chubb, the other
Nick Chubb. But no, I like Detroit to cover here too. They're playing well. I think Buffalo wants to stay balanced, and I think that was a big part of their game plan last week. And I think that plays right into what Detroit wants to do. They're going to want to limit the time of possession the Bills have. They're going to want to win that. Corey, I think you said it. They don't turn the ball over. So I like Detroit to cover, but not win. Next game, we have a matchup. The Giants are headed to Dallas, the other team that perennially plays on Thanksgiving. Let's see here. Dallas is favored by 9 right now. Will, I'll let you start off with this one.
Dallas by a couple of touchdowns. I think the Giants had a real nice little run going there in the season. And Dallas doesn't exactly make me think they're a Super Bowl contender. But Thanksgiving, short week in Dallas, I think Dallas is going to win big.
Yep, Corey?
Yeah, I'm going to go Dallas too. I think the Niners and the Eagles are really the only teams looking to come out of the NFC, which is remarkable, by the way, because Dallas got worse in the offseason. If that team didn't just trade away talent and sit on their hands, then I guarantee you they would have been in a better spot than they are right now. However, they're still a good football team. I think the Giants have been a little fraudulent. They just don't have the personnel there yet. I like the infrastructure, but I think Dallas wins by maybe like 17 points. I think it's a big win.
Yeah. And losing Wan'Dale Robinson, by the way, to the ACL, that's another.
Yeah.
They keep losing fast guys.
They lost 2 guys. It wasn't just Wan'Dale; it was someone else too.
Yeah, Kenny Galladay's been a ghost there since the 2 years now. So. So, yeah, I'm on board with you guys. I mean, the Giants just don't have any passing game whatsoever. They just don't have the weapons to threaten. So, I mean, what's to prevent Dallas from playing 9 or 8 or 9 in the box and making them beat Trevon Diggs and crew over top. So I'm on board with that as well. I think the biggest question is who's getting the turkey leg. Will it be Dak? Will it be Tony Pollard? Who the hell knows? But
it'll be Micah Parsons.
Oh, yeah, or Micah Parsons, if you want to throw a defensive player in there. So, yeah, I like Dallas to definitely win and cover here. last game, our game of the evening, which is pretty interesting because I wouldn't say there's a lot on the line, but it's definitely a game that matters for both of these teams. New England is headed to Minnesota. Minnesota coming off just a complete ass whooping. There's no other way to put it. Dallas just embarrassed them. And I believe that was in Minnesota too, was it not? Yeah. So just really bad. They're going to have to really play well to turn around to just kind of prove that they're not some pushover team. Vikings are favored by 3 right now. Corey, I'll let you start off with this one.
Oh, he gave me the hard one.
I flip them back and forth. Come on.
Oh, this one's tough. I think I'm going with the philosophy that I kind of had earlier in the year where I was wrong with Tom Brady and the shows up in big moments. But I'm flipping it back to Bill Belichick. I think I'm really not that high on the Vikings still. Like I'm not going to say I thought they were going to lose that big to the Cowboys, but I don't think they're as good as they've been made out to be. And I think the Patriots are going to take away Dalvin Cook, and I think they're going to do everything they can to make the Vikings beat them without Justin Jefferson. And I'm not sure if they're going to be able to do that. I think it's going to be a close game. I think the Patriots play their brand on offense. They're going to run the ball. They're going to throw their little dinky screens and slants and quick outs. But I think it's going to be a low-scoring affair. I think it's going to be like a 17-14 Patriots win.
Okay. Will.
And do you trust the Vikings to tack perfectly, basically for 60 minutes? Because I mean that's the game that New England plays on offense. They're just going to sort of dink and dunk you, and you got to chase and then make tackles. And I feel like that's a thing that works. That doesn't work very well against extremely disciplined and traditionally great teams, but works really well against teams that are not that. But is Justin Jefferson not playing? Is that what you're saying? Corey, I don't know if you were saying that.
No. I'm saying I think the Patriots throw
they will
brackets
make them
at,
try to win.
Yeah, they stack the box, throw brackets at Jefferson, and force Cousins to beat them with
Gotcha.
Thielen and Hawkinson.
Yeah, I didn't know. I mean, I was going to say that would be really bad, but yeah, I get an inkling it's the same sort of thing, that the Vikings are not as good as they appear to be, and that the Patriots always at this time of the year always seem to kind of grind out wins and be better at the end of the year than they were at the beginning, which I guess is, a tribute to coaching, since they don't have obvious, when you look at them, you don't think obvious talent everywhere. So, but yeah, this seems like the kind of game that they win.
All right. And I think it's boring when we all three agree on all three outcomes. So
and that makes you wrong a lot, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I will go ahead and take Minnesota to win this one. I think off of an embarrassing loss like that, and they're at home. Yeah, I think a lot of guys come together and say, hey, we need to play up to the level we know we can play to. We just got thoroughly embarrassed in the primetime slot in pretty much every corner of America this past week. So
Yeah.
it was so embarrassing. They flipped that game over to the Steelers Bengals game. So I mean that's how bad that was, and that was in the third quarter, for Christ's sake. So I like Minnesota just to bounce back here. It's just hard to believe that they're going to put together two bad games together just based off their past games. So I'll take Minnesota to cover here. Last but not least, Pittsburgh. We need to pick that game. So last time
damn.
Oh, I know, right? But so that's supposedly our 5-star matchup every week. So we're going to keep it as such, even though, as we predicted, this could be a pretty low scoring game. Right now, Colts are favored by 2.5 points at home. Will, we'll let you start off here.
I don't know. I look at that. I look at the interior front, actually the whole front seven of the Colts, and I just don't see the Steelers having a lot of success moving the football. And they seem to be a team that has to move the football in order to score points, right? You either have to blow coverages, commit needless penalties on defense on third down, or let the other team, move the ball matriculate the ball, score points on you, and win a lot. I also don't think the Colts are going to score very much in this game. But I kind of feel like the formula for them is, Jonathan Taylor and Deion Jackson to move the ball down the field, and Michael Pittman on some third downs. And then when they get in the red zone, these matchups with the running backs and Jelani Woods against the Steelers' worst defenders. I feel like, would you be surprised to see Jelani Woods against Arthur Millette in the red zone? I wouldn't. Like, if they position him into the slot with another tight end on the field, it wouldn't shock me. So I feel like that's a bad formula, and I just sort of feel that coming. But I'll keep it a low scoring game. I will say 17-13 Colts in this game. So a pretty close game, and probably entertaining if you're into that sort of thing. Wondering, what they'll have to do to lose, as I often do. 17-13 Colts, I think, in this one.
Corey.
You almost stole my thunder there. Well, I'll just get the score out there. I'm going 17-16. And basically for all the reasons Will listed, Grover Stewart, I think, is among the most underrated interior D linemen. He is a hog in there against the run. He may not be the best pass rusher, although he can walk your guards and center back into the quarterback's lap. But DeForest Buckner's elite. Everyone knows that. And I think Dan Moore hasn't been very hot, hasn't been very good lately. He's just been pushed around a little. So with a weakness at left tackle, we're going to be giving up pressure inside. I think that's going to lead to no run game. I think if we try and pass the ball, it's going to be Kenny bailing out to the right, which is tried and true for a throwaway at this point, or stack. So I think we can scrap together a touchdown, and then we can get 3 field goals off of, let's say, a big punt return, a interception, and maybe one late drive with 5 minutes left where we kick the field goal to go down 1, and then think we can stop them, but then they run the ball out. That's my prediction.
That sounds a little like last week. All of the 3 of those things.
It feels like a couple of our losses.
Jeremy, you know what? I think that sometimes you see teams and you see their roster and you think, oh, they like the guys that I like in the draft at certain positions. And the Colts are most definitely one with defensive line, because they drafted Eric Johnson this year.
Yep.
Who, sort of one of my, draft crushes. And I had Grover Stewart, from Albany State, a guy that nobody had ever heard of. That I just, I saw him play a few games and I just thought, I don't care what level he's playing at now. That's a man, basically. He's a load to handle in the middle. And as Corey said, if you are a little bit undersized or your technique isn't really perfect on the interior, he can walk you back. And, that's a lot of disruption. That and DeForest Buckner in the middle to try to run the ball as the main focal point of your offense. I think that's going to be rough. But
I want to say something. Are we getting Mason Cole this week? Because I've read something that said he was in a boot.
I did see J.C. Hassenauer late in the game. I missed if there was an announcement on Mason Cole.
Did not see one, but he was not playing at the end of the game.
Yeah, so that definitely does not bode well. If that's the case, I think we're going to lose just because of what you guys said. Indianapolis defense is so good. I will say, I think we're all on board with a really low scoring game. I think it's going to be a 13-10 Indianapolis win. It just screams like, both these teams are going to struggle to move the ball. There might be a drive here, a drive there, where someone gets a score out of, but I just don't see the offenses doing much this game in general. So I like the Colts here. I hate to say it I meant to say the Steelers. And the reason I say the Steelers is I will be in attendance. I have never been to a game where the Steelers have lost. So
there's the first time for everything.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks, Will. With that being said, I think, Pittsburgh finds a way to eke out, just an ugly slugfest type of a game where there's no offense really that gets sustained or whatever. So I think Steelers win 13-10, but that easily could go either way. So that being said, thank you guys again for doing another episode here on the very shortened Thanksgiving week, where we get 3 games on Thanksgiving, which is what I'm most thankful for. No, I'm just joking.
Hey, Jeremy, have you seen Back to the Future?
Yeah, of course.
You know, when things start going wrong, that his picture starts fading into nothing.
Yeah.
That's what you look like now. Like you're
Yeah,
like
it's
you're-
pretty dark here in my
you need
parents'
to make
sunroom
sure your
now.
parents meet each other, or you're just gonna drift into nowhere.
Hopefully Pittsburgh season doesn't keep drifting off into nothingness. So
Oh, you're asking for too much.
yeah, I know. It's only another week, where an opposing defender from another team is called out Matt Canada and is basically predictable and simplistic offense. So
Yeah. I don't know. I think we're getting closer and closer to acceptance of what this team is, because you lose to Cincinnati or Philadelphia or Buffalo. You're like, yeah, okay, those are, the first 2 or the second 2 are really good teams. Cincinnati has all the makings and they just played a really good game. But when you start playing the Colts and the Falcons and teams like that, and you're still not like winning comfortably against them, it's no longer a time to think to yourself, okay, we're a contender, So I think the coming to Jesus part of it is healthy, that they, that will inspire some changes. I think without that, I'm not sure they would ever make any changes. The oil tanker turns at a very slow rate for this team,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, technically, I know you mentioned this at the beginning of the show, but technically it's still possible for Mike Tomlin to have a winning season here if we'd win every single game left on the board. Not gonna
what was he have one more? He has one more loss in hand.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I think we're up to 3-8 now through 12 weeks. So, but all right, gentlemen. Well, thank you again for another good podcast here at the SteelerFury.com podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Coleman. May Smith is smoking on the message boards, joined by Corey Karbowski, known as Corey39, and Will Massick, known as Bradshaw to Ben. Gentlemen, if anything, enjoy time at home with your family, with your friends, if you're able to do that. Eat some turkey or whatever the hell you like to eat. I don't care. But, let's hopefully see a Pittsburgh win, because I'm going to be in attendance or whatever. And I'm probably going with one of my best friends who's a Colts fan. So he'll just give me shit.
Think about not going if you want to keep your streak intact. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. All right.
Have safe travels, everybody. Enjoy your Thanksgiving.
Yep. Enjoy your Thanksgiving.